Think about the last time someone's completely ordinary behavior managed to infuriate you. Maybe it was an arrogant coworker dominating a meeting, or a friend acting remarkably needy over a minor problem. On paper, these are minor social frictions. You could easily ignore them. But in your body, the reaction feels entirely out of proportion. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tense, and it registers as a personal attack. Almost instantly, your brain builds a defense narrative to explain this anger. You gather evidence and analyze their flaws, concluding that the other person is the sole source of the conflict. We burn through an exhausting amount of psychological energy this way, judging strangers during a commute or venting to partners about lazy colleagues, mentally rehearsing arguments we will never actually have. Our default state becomes one of constant vigilance. We treat the external world as a hostile landscape, believing we must constantly fight other people's behaviors just to maintain our own internal peace. But the people who trigger you most are not your antagonists. They are your mirrors. When an interaction provokes a sudden, intense emotional response, it is rarely a reaction to the other person. It is a reaction to a hidden, unacknowledged aspect of your own mind. That annoying person at the office is a psychological symptom. They are pointing directly at a piece of your own psyche that you have spent a lifetime trying to ignore. Psychoanalyst Carl Jung gave this invisible aspect of our personality a name. He called it the shadow, the repository for the unconscious parts of our character. We begin building this shadow in childhood. To earn love, we learn which behaviors are praised and which are punished. We construct an ego ideal, a highly curated mask of our most acceptable traits. But the traits that don't fit that mask do not simply vanish. When society tells us that selfishness, anger, or even wild creativity are bad, they are pushed into the unconscious mind. Those banished traits continue to exist in the dark. They form the shadow, operating independently from conscious choices and constantly seeking to express themselves. The result is a fractured psyche. We navigate our adult lives effectively blind to half of our own human nature. To keep the shadow hidden from our awareness, our ego relies on a defense mechanism first identified by Sigmund Freud: projection. The ego avoids the discomfort of self-reflection by focusing outward. It is a far more tolerable experience to judge a flaw in someone else than to admit we possess that trait ourselves. Consciously, a trigger seems linear. An external event causes your emotional reaction. But psychologically, the event hits your repressed shadow first. The depth of your repression drives your reaction's magnitude. The more you bury a trait, the more violently you react to it. Every intense, disproportionate judgment we hurl at others is actually an unacknowledged confession about ourselves. You unhook these triggers through a practice called radical acceptance. This involves observing your shadow traits without immediately trying to fix, judge, or destroy them. Instead of burning energy to maintain a divided self, the goal becomes assimilation. You take the traits operating in the unconscious and deliberately invite them into your awareness. Mindfulness is the specific tool required to bridge this gap. By anchoring your attention in the present moment, you can observe your own triggers without being entirely consumed by them. This healing requires you to hold your ground. You have to stop looking away from the parts of yourself you find most unacceptable. The first step is catching the emotion in real time. When you feel a flash of anger towards someone, you pause and trace the projection back to its root by asking why their behavior bothers you so deeply. Next, you use mindfulness to sit with the physical discomfort of the trigger. You observe the heat in your face or the tightness in your chest, but you refuse to react or lash out. Then you reclaim the energy. You validate yourself by acknowledging that you contain multitudes, that you are capable of both the traits you show the world and the traits you hide. As the shadow is gradually brought into awareness, the automatic cycle of the trigger begins to dissolve. The behaviors of others don't necessarily change, but they lose the specific hook that once allowed them to dictate your emotional state. You arrive at a more stable baseline. You are no longer a reactive victim to the behaviors of everyone you encounter. Your greatest external triggers are your greatest internal teachers. By understanding your reflection, you master yourself.